Well, the U.S. House of Representatives will try for a third day to elect a House Speaker after Republican Kevin McCarthy failed for a sixth straight time last night.
On this vote, the yeas are 216, the nays are 214. Accordingly, the motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned until noon tomorrow.
Okay, so if you're keeping track, McCarthy's now failed to be elected on 6 straight votes, falling short of the 218 votes required each time. After lengthy closed-door meetings with conservative holdouts, McCarthy said more voting last night wouldn't have been productive, although he also claims that his meetings showed progress. Well, let's get some more on this. We're joined now by Professor Alan Lichtman, U.S. historian and professor at American University in Washington, D.C. Professor Lichtman, seeing votes turn out like this, it's like the definition of insanity is, continuing to hit your head against the wall and expecting a different outcome. This feels very much like that.
You're absolutely right. Look, Kevin McCarthy is the ultimate Gumby, the ultimate rubber man. He has no backbone. He has no principles. He's willing to make any concession, no matter how much it would weaken and undermine the speakership and the ability of the House to govern. But it doesn't seem to be enough for those diehards. And we're approaching the modern record of futile ballots for the speakership, and that's 9 ballots in 1923.
Okay, so 100 years ago, this is the last time this happened. It seems to sort of play into this sort of feeling of, U.S. politics lately as being more banana republic than refined democracy. What does this sort of do to the system when Congress can't even elect a leader?
Well, let's not forget, it's not Congress. It's the Republicans. This
True.
Has nothing to do with the Democrats. There's an old saying, when your opponent is making a mistake, stay quiet and let them do it. And that's what the Democrats have been doing. In actuality, their candidate, Hakeem Jeffries, has been getting a plurality of the vote. Of course, not a majority. And all of the commentary about this misunderstands this. This is not a contest between those who are conservative and those who are more conservative. There are no fundamental policy issues along liberal conservative lines between the McCarthy loyalists and the diehards. Rather, here's what this is all about. The diehards don't believe that Kevin McCarthy has the fortitude and the backbone to do what they want to do, which is to launch an all-out vendetta against Democrats and be ready once again, and there are many election deniers among them, to undermine our democracy, to undermine free and fair elections in order to seize or maintain power.
Right. So here we are about an hour and 15 minutes away from the next vote on, the House leader or speaker, pardon me. Do you see this changing? I mean, is this going to continue? How could either McCarthy be swayed to step aside, or how could these other Republican, never Kevin holdouts be convinced otherwise?
Because it's not a matter of policy or high principle here. Kevin McCarthy can keep going as long as he wants. I can't predict, what the Republicans will ultimately do. Steve Scalise is probably the most likely alternative, another very conservative member of the Republican leadership. But regardless, the Gumby man has made so many concessions, including apparently allowing just one member of the caucus to launch a no-confidence vote, and that this has already gone on nearly as long as the modern record, that it's going to be a Pyrrhic victory for whoever becomes Speaker. The speakership will be so weakened that Republicans will be very much adrift.
And that's kind of what I wanted to wrap this up on, is what kind of if McCarthy, for example, somehow finds a way to convince those holdouts to go for him and so he can get to that magic number of 218, what kind of a mandate would that be? Because like you said, he's bent over backwards, twisted himself into pretzels, as the Gumby man, as you're calling him, in order to get there.
Yeah, it'll be a speakership without power, direction, or principle. The Republicans have already inflicted a serious mortal wound on not just their ability to govern, because I'm not sure what their governing philosophy is, but anything they now do in terms of going after the Democrats or trying to weaken democracy is going to be undermined and discredited. They have just really destroyed their credibility with the American people and any ability to work across the aisles. The great irony of this fight is while Republicans are tearing themselves apart, Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader of the Senate, the longest tenured leader of the Senate in history, is appearing with Democratic President Joe Biden on a joint project.
Yeah, it is something to watch. You know, we're up here in Canada looking down there and just kind of wondering what's going on and what's next. I suppose we'll find out more coming up at noon today. But in the meantime, Professor Lichtman, really appreciate you joining us for some analysis here this morning.